his son live here, unannounced, because of everything that went screwy yesterday. I'm hoping I can just get out there, and I'll put it up later. I don't know if anybody's going to show up now because I did not advertise this at all. But I'm going to record what would have been last night's show, which I did record last night, but it never showed up on the thing. I don't know. I screwed everything up, so it was never actually shown. I do believe I'm streaming now. Okay. Hi, Jay Shelton here at home. A little earlier than usual, and it's a Saturday. And the theme of this show is a Southern tour. This song written in 1963 by Tommy Tucker, which I thought it was much older until I looked it up yesterday. It's part of that adventure. And I hear on the Sandblasted Telecaster. Put on your red dress, baby, 'cause we're going out tonight. Put on your red dress, baby, we're going out tonight. Yeah, have some fun, pretty mama. Have to find. Put on your high heel sneakers and your wind hat on your head. Your high heel sneakers and your wig hat on your head. Yeah, we're going out, pretty mama. Then you know you're gonna knock him dead. So 63 by Tommy Tucker, not really a standard blues song, but it's been done by some great blues artists, including a person we're going to talk about today. So the Southern tour was a great tour, and I'll explain what that was. Let me just turn this off so it's not making noise. The Connecticut years I've spoken about on my show was about 89 started. It was 89, fall of 89, maybe end of summer. I had spent the 2.5 previous years living outside of LA in Valencia. Well, Newhall, which is next to Valencia. And Valencia is where Cal Arts is. It's where Magic Mountain is. And Zoltan Mako, Mark Mastrangelo, Tim Webb, and I all knew each other from high school. We moved out there after, I'd graduated from college. The rest of them had been jumping around a lot. I'd been in California once before. But anyway, that was over with, and I decided to go back east in 89. I'd been working at this really religious Jewish school, private school in LA, and I ended up working there again from 91 to 93 before I went into public school. But anyway, so I go back east, and things didn't work out. I didn't end up where I thought I was going to go. So I ended up going to my mom's in Connecticut. It's one of the few times that I stayed with somebody since I was, since I left high school. It was one of the few times. But my mom and her husband Roy had a house in Norwalk, Connecticut. It's a real nice town, about an hour from New York City. And they let me stay there for a couple weeks till I found a job, which I did right away. It was my first, I guess, really professional job, Jewish Community Center of Stanford, Connecticut, teen director. I mean, the private school I'd worked at didn't pay me more than like 15 grand a year. This was the first job that paid me like mid-20s, which wasn't bad for a guy in your early mid-20s back in... Is anybody on here yet? Doesn't even look like anybody's watching. I'm going to stop for a minute and make sure that this is going out and I'm not doing the same thing as yesterday and making a show that nobody's watching. So I'm going to look and see if I'm on here. Plus I'll do this, just to make sure. Sorry to interrupt, guys, but it's important that I know somebody's seeing me here. Can you see me? Comma, am I on? Question mark. There we go. Let's see if somebody responds to that. And let's see if I can watch myself right now. Yes, it looks like I can. Live now. But this time of day, yeah, I'm not surprised nobody's watching. So, it looks like it. Yeah, there I am. I can live now. But this time I'm going to turn that off because it was there's a hesitation there. Anyway, so this Connecticut year, I ended up getting an apartment. I worked at the Jewish Community Center for a couple of years. Met a lot of cool people in that period. It was a very, just like so many segments of my life. Till I got here, life slowed down. I've been doing the same thing for about 18 years, but that was the first time in a long time. I'd usually go from place to place, build up some close friends, and just leave. And so I was there for Connecticut for a few years with Jimmy and Gary and Keith, and we had great times. We used to barbecues, parties. We were always going to the city because it was we lived in Stamford, Connecticut. And it was only like a 50-minute ride into the city, to go to concerts or games or just to hang out, get pizza. So going to New York City was cool, and then living in a really nice place like Connecticut. And teen director of the Jewish Community Center. Good if they were out there, you remember those days. Our bosses were horrible, the mean bosses. But I did meet a lot of cool athletes doing that job because New York athletes, the Knicks and the Giants would come and do benefits, so I got to meet a lot of those guys, and that was, the Giants were Super Bowl champs. Anyway, during this period, I had a little money. Kosoff was a few hours away in Pennsylvania, I think living with his parents at that point, and we would go on road trips most weekends, usually New York City, but other places too, all around. Went up New England and went south a little bit, but we'd been on tons of road trips. I'd gone cross country so many times, but this southern tour stands out as the best. What we decided we were going to do in 1990, I had a couple weeks off, and it's May of 1990 we did this trip. It looks like we left around the, he has it written down here. He's got a cassette here of some things. I'll play some stuff from it. We left, we got to St. Louis May 20th, so that means we probably left around a couple days before that, May 18th or something like that, maybe 19th. We probably left the 19th. And I think we did one of our concerts at those cheap hotels we used to go to first and recorded that. Anyway, the idea was we were going to go through the South and explore folk music and try to find folk people and make a documentary about it, which we actually did. And somewhere this exists, real poor quality on, it's not even my nice kind of VCR. It's bigger and like bulkier. It really is poor quality. It's poorly edited. The footage is bad. The sound's bad. Someday I'll get a hold of it, clean it up as best I can, and put it on here, because it really was a monumental trip. And about a year before that, Folkways Institute in D.C., part of the Smithsonian, had financed this Folkways program where they were doing that. They were looking at old roots music, and they released an album of old music from Woody Guthrie and Leadbelly. So I wrote them a letter, and I asked them if they could finance our trip. That way we can get better cameras and all kinds of stuff. I didn't really think they'd say yes. And of course they did not say yes. They sent me a rejection letter, and I should have got it out, but somewhere during all these job rejections I had got around that time, I put that in the pile with that too. So I have that letter still from the Smithsonian rejecting funding us, but they wished us luck. So we went out, and the first place we stopped, just getting quickly to the musical parts, was St. Louis. Basically this story revolves around St. Louis, Memphis, and New Orleans. And we went to St. Louis, and Cousin, you remember Cousin from this story a couple weeks ago? Cousin was living out in St. Louis then, East St. Louis, and he was living with not his current wife, Terry, who we really like. He was living with Debbie, who was a nice lady we knew. Debbie was much different than Terry, though. Cousin could never be alone, If something would end, and next thing you know, there's a whole other person living in the house, and sometimes she'd bring 8 kids with them, and just never phase Cousin. But back to Cousin stories another week. Like I said, I didn't say it, but last time I talked about Cousin, I forgot the monkey story, which is great. I forgot the story about that he's a Ghostbuster now. I forgot, about how one time he had like 8 kids living with him in his little place all of a sudden. There's so many more stories about Cousin I get back to. But he's briefly in this story, because that was our first stop is St. Louis, because St. Louis is really the birthplace of a lot of the blues and jazz, but also one of the birthplaces of rock and roll, because Chuck Berry's from there. We didn't think we were going to see Chuck Berry. Oh, look, somebody showed up here. Hey. Hi, Tom Rita. You might be the only one here because I did this all of a sudden, unexpected, because I had such a failure with my show last night. So I'm glad you're an audience. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to have you here. Otherwise, listen to the story. And if you have anything you want to say or ask while I'm talking, every once in a while I'll look down. But thank you for coming. So I know I'm not talking to a total blank wall, because nobody's answered my text or anything. But thank you. But so our goal in St. Louis was Chuck Berry was from there. Ike and Tina Turner were from there. But we were looking for Johnny Johnson. If you don't know who Johnny Johnson is, Johnny Johnson was a keyboardist, he was basically, it was his band, the Johnny Johnson band, that Chuck Berry joined. Willie Dixon on bass. I think Willie Dixon came later when they were with Chess Records. But Chuck took over the band, made the Johnny Johnson band. But as Keith Richards points out in the great documentary Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, you look at Chuck Berry's songs, a lot of them are guitar, piano chords, like B flat, F sharp. Like, who plays guitar that way? No, but piano is very common, so that's just more evidence that Chuck took a lot from Johnny Johnson. So we were looking for Johnny Johnson. He had been recently discovered. He'd been driving a bus in St. Louis. I saw him several times with Rat Dog, one of Bob Weir's bands. He had played with them a couple of years, and then Koss and Albert and I saw him at the Long Beach Jazz Blues Festival. It was probably one of Johnny Johnson's last show. Chuck Berry and Johnny Johnson played together on that stage. It might have been the last time they played together. Bo Diddley was also at that show, and we saw Ike Turner. No Tina. But anyway, so we couldn't find him. We're looking around. Cousin did tell us where we see some band, and I don't remember who it was. We did go to some theater where we saw a pretty good blues band, but it wasn't authentic. It was a white guy that wasn't much older than us, so that really wasn't what we were looking for. We could go for any, we were looking for roots in white music and black music, but this type of music, basically, a guy our age, white, playing it, he's not a roots guy. But our first success is that we weren't able to film it, though, was we found this guy. Koss just told me his name today. Was it Bill Stader? Joe Stader. He had a music instrument shop in St. Louis. We just stumbled across it, I think. And he was an older, heavy guy, and this was a guy who had grown up in white country, basically doing white country music. But he had a little bit of a blues to him. And he's showing us all the bands he'd been in, and they're funny, one after another. They're all in those matching rhinestone suits, the Gauche colors. And he couldn't understand what we wanted to do. We were looking for roots music. He goes, "Oh, you want to go to Branson, Missouri? All the bands are there." We didn't want to see that. We wanted to see more rooty stuff, like he himself. And he didn't understand that he was the attraction. But anyway, he played this lap pedal steel, and he set it up, and Koss was trying it, wanted to buy it. He regrets to this day that he didn't buy it. So he says he's going to do a demo for us. And we get out the camera, we want to film him, because this is what it's all about. This is a guy who'd been in these really early country bands, and he was a great ensemble player. And he said no, because he was on disability as a musician, and he was afraid if it ever got out there that he was playing his lap steel, if it ever got there he was playing his lap steel, he would lose his disability, and he didn't want us filming it. So it was really sad, because it was really good, and that was our first cool part of the trip. We did secretly film him dumping his garbage in the dumpster later, which probably also would have lost him his disability, because that seems harder than playing the lap steel. Anyway, I don't know, maybe it was his wrist. But anyway, so we go on from there, and we say goodbye to Cousin. We had a nice visit there. We head down to Memphis. Memphis is magic, and I kind of expected it was going to be, but I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. My sister, years earlier, in the early 80s, Amy, had gone down to Memphis, and she had just run it. Somehow she ended up hanging out with Amy Carter, President Jimmy Carter's daughter, and had a great time. And they had wild events. She just said Memphis was crazy. Like, whenever you'd go, something weird would happen. You'd see these coincidences, and just had a lot of fun. And I heard that over and over again, and it was pretty much true. I can't really tell you what it was like in Memphis, Tennessee, but it was unlike. It's like it was just this, and I don't believe in any kind of magic or any kind of weird things or things in the universe that are beyond physical things. You know what I'm talking about. I don't believe in craziness. But I have to say, there was that vibe in Memphis that everything just kind of synced together. And everything you'd start here would end here, and everything tied together. And everybody you met knew this person. And I've heard that from time and time again from people. We ran into one guy that had just come there like we did on a trip and stayed. For guys that loved music like us. It's not like that anymore. I've gone back a few times. You know, all the last of those people died, the Magic Blues people. But I'll tell you about our adventure there. So we get there, and right away we're just excited. It looks like it's out of a movie. We walk down Beale Street. Now this is when Beale Street was great. It was old pubs and bars. It wasn't all the flash. When we came back a year later, BB King's had opened, and that was the first flashy thing. And soon, when it came back 10 years later, it was just like every other street of bars you see in Austin or Nashville. It's all just crap. But we got there when it was still authentic, and the first guy we saw was this old black man named Uncle Ben. He had the white hair around the crown, but you know, the black on top, bald on top. And he was sitting in the park just playing on his electric guitar, and he had a little band with him. I think it was a 3-piece band. And the townspeople, you tell the regular people just around dancing, they do this every day. And he was doing some great songs. It was a good time. And I just remember him stop. We have him recorded and sing to some little girl, "I'm going to play at your wedding." Uncle Ben was great. And when I went back a year later with my friend Pablo, who would die if I told his real name in here. He doesn't like any publicity. We went back again a year later. Uncle Ben was still there, and he was playing in a bar, and that was really cool. Obviously, we went back 10 years later. He was dead. He was gone, as were the rest of these people I'm going to talk about. And we had a great time. We went, club to club, all these blues places. Our favorite place, and I went back several years and years again, was a Rum Boogie Cafe. Is this place on Beale Street. It used to be run by a pretty good, kind of a local celebrity, Don McMinn. And his band would play, but if you read the walls, like, there was no space left for every famous person that dropped in there and played with them. Like, the Stones, everybody had gone in and just, jammed at that place. It was really a cool vibe. And the women were very aggressive about wanting us to dance. And I got up, and I was dancing. But I just remember Kosoff, he gets uncomfortable, and this really nice-looking woman just trying to get him on the dance floor. And that Don McMinn, who was hosting the thing, went nuts. He said, "Boy, I see that woman asking you to dance. You won't dance." And finally got him up. But we had a great time at that place. Just felt we'd always been there, and they seemed to really like us there. We go to another place, and all through it we get picked up by this one cab driver, and then we get lost, and then out of nowhere he comes around an alley again, a whole different part of town. Another cab driver's taking us to some crazy places I can't even talk about. So we go to these places, and everybody keeps telling us that we got to find Clifford. Clifford's gonna, we got to find Clifford. Those are all the actions. All the people telling us Clifford. We're not finding Clifford anywhere. And so anyway, we end up kind of in a more normal bar. It's not a blues bar. It seems more like a young people's bar. And I remember they're playing that song REM had out of the time. It was already probably a couple years old. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And we're dancing with these local girls, and I just remember having a blast and thinking it was so great. And we go back to our table in the bar, and we have a drink, and we sit down, and it's a round table. It's pretty big, and Kosoff and I are just sitting there. And Kosoff would always have his drawing tablet out. Like, here's one of his notebooks. I'll explain his notebooks later. But this was a bigger one. It's more of a substantial-sized notebook. And his whole life, since I've known him, he catalogs his life in these notebooks. I'll show it now. Song lyrics, illustrations of our adventures, just ideas, but every story we tell is in here, and there's a lot of drawings of Donnie, and so it's part journal, it's part songbook, it's part just taping receipts and things like that. But anyway, when he gets nervous, he's more likely to start drawing, and that's it's been awkward several times. People don't always like to be drawn. So we're sitting there, and he's got the thing in front of him. We're at this club, and suddenly these four large African guys come, and I know they're African because they were wearing those African colors, those kind of shirts they wear with the wide sleeves, and they're big, and they've got that dark look, dark hair, and it's very serious, and they're just muscle bound, and they're like twice our size, and I'm already twice Kossoff's size. And there's four untaken seats at our table, and Costa and I are across from each other. They come and they sit at those seats, and they just put their arms out, and they stare straight ahead, all four of them like this. And I'm thinking, oh boy, these guys don't look like happy to see us. I don't know why they're sitting. Why are they intimidating? It seemed like an act of intimidation to me. And Kosoff gets nervous, so he starts opening his notebook and he starts drawing. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is really going to set him up. Because we've been in biker bars and stuff where people get angry when Kosoff starts drawing, even if he's not drawing them. They just don't like that artsy-fartsy stuff. So I'm thinking, here we go. Then one of them turns towards me. He goes, you are art students? And I go, yeah, we're art students. And he goes, we are art students. And then all six of us, like, and we're all buddies, and we had a good time hanging out and talking about art school, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. That was just Memphis. We walk out of there, and just happens to be one of our favorite cab drivers coming by, smiling. He pulls over, takes us in, takes us about a block from where we were. Oh, who else just came on here? Hi, Stacy. Takes us about a block from our hotel, or a couple blocks, and we're about to go to bed. It's got to be like 3 in the morning now. We've had this great first night in Memphis. It's like magic. And suddenly we hear this. I can't even imitate it. Oh, geez, forget it. No, I can't imitate it, but this loud electric guitar, no other instrument, cutting through the night. Jeez, I wish I could do it. That's a little closer. Like, I can't do the pattern he did. Anyway, it's cutting through the night. This one guitar, and we turn and go back. We start following it, and again, this is like out of a movie. In the dark, there's no one else on Beale Street. We get to this gazebo. This is 2, 3 in the morning. It's barely lit up by stars. And sitting in the gazebo is this old black guy that looks like he's out of a movie with like one of those old captain's hats, right? And a kind of a tatty sport jacket. Face really dark, but like that old cracked look, you know. White hair. Eyes that are just red. Big, because I met him standing up later. He's taller than me. And old, and he's just sitting there with that guitar, and it's cutting through the night, and he's tapping his foot, and on his foot is this like metal bar. And he's on your bed, baby, going out tonight. I'll play you a little bit in a little bit, and we're going, oh my God, this is what we've been looking for. And his name is Alabama, the real name Herman Alexander, and everything he says is like out of a movie. It's like, how many people we got watching now? It says 0, but then I got 2 people down here. And everything he says is like out of a movie. Nobody's picking up on here either. Like, he goes, I got me, he pulled out his stew. It looked like alphabet stew, and he goes, has some with me. He wanted to share his food with us. And we didn't take it. It looked a little gross anyway. But we did give him some money and just talked to him a while. And he pulls this bottle out of his pocket, and I think it was out of alcohol, and he goes, first thing in the morning I'm going to get me some. And Kaz said, that's a song. Next thing you know, he starts playing the song first thing in the morning. Anyway, so this Alabama was just, everything about him was wonderful. He's telling us his stories. He's telling us that, he's kind of a local legend, we find out. So we ask him if we can play with him. We have some guitars. He goes, yeah, but you got to go ask Mr. Joe. Now that's the times, right? So he goes, Mr. Joe. I didn't have to see him to know Mr. Joe was white. So he goes, you ask Mr. Joe if you want to play him. Okay, Alabama, we'll ask Mr. Joe. We went back so excited we couldn't sleep because we met this figure. Now Herman Alexander is his name, and later we'd go to blues festivals in Long Beach and Philadelphia, and we'd meet other blues guys like us that had went around following people and fans, and other people had met Alabama had the same experience. Somebody bought him equipment. Everybody gives him a little money. Everybody gives him something to eat. Everybody wants to play with him. And so, he was really a good figure. So I did find, and if you look in the comments below, when you get the finished video, I did put a link to where you can get this recording of him on Amazon. And I'll tell you about that recording because I actually was involved in that to a minor extent, which I'll get to. So you can get that on Amazon. It's paired with somebody else. But so we get there the next day. First thing in the morning, we get the grits and everything you're supposed to eat. And we go outside to find Alabama, And we bring our guitar. Oh, first we go down the pool hall. And there's Mr. Joe, an old white guy with all these other white guys playing pool. We go, "You Mr. Joe?" He goes, "Yeah, Mr. Joe." He runs Beale Street. I go, "Alabama said we have to get your permission if we want to play guitar with Alabama." He looks at us. He goes, "You guys want to play with Alabama?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay." He let us play. He said he was just worried about sometimes whole bands come and set up and take over and take advantage of Alabama. But it's funny that he had to have the permission. And we go there, and there's this guy there, a young guy, probably a couple years older than us, maybe not. Again, a young black guy in like a parking lot attendant uniform, with kind of these like safari hat on. And his name's Clifford. This turns out this was the Clifford everybody was telling us to find the night before, who had all the action, knew everything, funded, he was the guy to go to. So you go, Clifford. And so we're sitting down, and Alabama's got his guitar out. We get our guitars out. And it's the middle of the day, and Clifford gets up on this microphone. And there's no more than like 10 tourists. It's Memphis tourists. There are families from whatever sitting there, maybe 15 people. And he gets up like it's a big show, and he goes, "And we have some guests from the Big Apple." Now we're driving this Connecticut car. By the way, the plates were fake because I don't think I had a plate for that car. I know my license was suspended at that point, and I know I didn't have insurance. And here I am driving around the country. Don't ever do that, kids. Life was different back then. You could do things. And he goes, "From the Big Apple," and I forget what he called us. And they start playing. And then Clifford does not have a drum set, but there's a cushion chair, a padded cushion chair, like vinyl covered. He picks up these 2 rectangular sticks, and he starts pounding the best drums. And they do Red Dress Baby, all these other things. The best drum I've ever heard in my life. We're playing along. We're just having a blast. And again, we have this on tape. I'm playing a Fender Telecaster, different than this one. It doesn't have all the notches in it. It was white and blue, and Kosoff was playing I think his Vox, but you can't hear us. We might, actually, I think we were only playing our acoustic guitars at that point because we were afraid to plug in. We were just on acoustic. And Clifford's playing drums, and here is a tape of it. It's a bad tape, but you'll get a sense of how great this was. So you're going to hear Alabama talking, and he starts playing, and it's going to blow you away. Then you hear the drum start. That's Clifford with 2 sticks, and the backup singing is Clifford. And I won't play too much of it, but boy, this was one of the greatest experiences of our life, and we got to be on the gazebo playing with these guys. That's him. Red Dress Baby. It's with the Red Dress Baby.
Put on your red dress, baby, going out tonight. That's what we're doing.
See, I don't even know how to imitate that. Some weird tuning. You hear Clifford on that.
Put on your red dress, baby. Don't we going out tonight? Put on your high heel sneakers and your big hat on your head.
Your sneakers, baby.
And your big hat on your head.
Sending this out to people while we talk. While they talk. Clifford's background singing. It was something to be in the middle of this. It was really something. But like I'm saying, sitting there in the middle of this, like we were right in there in that gazebo with one of the best things ever in life. Wait, I got a warning here. What is this? I think that's enough. You get the message. They ended up doing like 7 songs, and we were on stage for part of it. I don't know if we were on that part right there playing, but we were up there. We didn't play every song, but anyway, that was a great experience. Memphis was just unbelievable. Why would somebody text back in the middle of it? Sorry, I just want to see if someone's telling me they can hear me or not. Oh, Jesus. You have to tell me you're driving. Just don't answer this stupid thing. Anyway, so Memphis we left and we went to New Orleans, and we didn't get much sleep between the two. We hardly slept that entire trip. And New Orleans was great, Bourbon Street. We got there, we'd been driving all night, and Kosoff wanted to sleep in the hotel. I couldn't sleep, so I just wandered Bourbon Street and I recorded all these adventures. The street preacher. It took me a while to realize that he'd get the urge to sing every time I had $1 out. He'd start going, oh, and then I have that somewhere in the tape too. Then he'd stop. I go ahead. He goes, I'm feeling the spirit a little, and his hand would be out. I go, oh yeah. And then I realized $1 would keep him singing. We met a lot of cool people. New Orleans is just funny because like all the facades, strip clubs, bands, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It's wide open wall, no windows. You just walk down the street. It's all right there. And bands don't like to be recorded there because they, everything. They feel they're getting ripped off. But anyway, it was a great trip, and I'm not going to spend too much time in New Orleans. The gumbo was great. Went back a few years later. I've not been to New Orleans since the millennia, so before the flood. Now, I did go back to Memphis a year later with my friend Pablo, as I said, and we ran to Alabama. I saw him in the street, and he was tall and strong looking. And I figure all the tourists that see him and talk to him, I figure he's not going to know me, but he comes right up to me and goes, you bring your guitar? And that really, I felt really cool about that he remembered me and remembered that I played guitar and we played together. And talked to him. He didn't know where Clifford was. Nobody in town. Some people told us Clifford was dead. Some people told us he was in jail. Some people told us he just disappeared. Some said he was holed up somewhere. That's the way Memphis was. Like everything was like a movie in Memphis. It was a funny movie too. Uncle Ben was still there playing in a bar. And so we went and saw, Paul and I went and saw Alabama, Herman Alexander playing at the gazebo that night, or as early evening. And Paul is Puerto Rican, but he could pass for black. I thought he was less light black when I first met him, So Paul and I go there. We had all kinds of weird adventures down south. I'll tell you about another time. When you have mixed races traveling together, well, this was 30 years ago. It didn't go over well with a lot of people. We had, when Costa and I went, we had some goofy adventures. When Paul and I went, we had a few things that got rough, but could have gotten rough or almost gotten rough. Like it got weird several times. Really good stories too. I'll tell. That'll be another time. But the one part about the story I want to tell is that Alabama looks at Paul and he goes, "You a colored man. You a colored man. I want you to read this for me." And he pulls out this thing. It's a contract from his pocket. And somebody wanted to pay him like $130 to record his songs and play them. And Paul is saying, "Oh, this is going to rip him off. This is nothing." And I was pointing out, Paul, the guy's going to be dead soon, probably, which he was, dead really soon. And if he can get a few bucks out of it, this might be the only chance he gets, because people paid him to play like parties and barbecues and stuff. But so what's funny is, I think we ended up advising him to take it years later after he was dead. So I went back about 9-10 years later with Kosoff and Donnie, which wasn't as good a trip, but we had some cool things happen, weird things. Alabama was dead. Uncle Ben was dead. These other characters we had known, Pops Davis was dead. Everybody had died. I think Don McMinn was still alive. And Bill Street wasn't the same. It was gaudy and gross. And the city was dirtier. It was depressing. They still had those nice statues of B.B. King and Elvis. Oh, we went to Graceland, Costa and I, and we didn't pay it again. We tried again for free by saying we were the illegitimate sons of Elvis. We have all this on tape, how to get this there. We ended up hanging out with the security guy. We had him cracking up. What was his name? Kosoff remembers his name. He just thought we were funny. We asked him if the seat Elvis would drive this bus. We were in Elvis's bus, and we just asking him crazy questions. We tried to get him for free, saying that we were Elvis's illegitimate son. The woman at the desk, you see her jaw starts twitching as we film her, and we want to see the body. And we told her we thought the body was in one of those like fake ice cubes, like they do with flies. And anyway, we did get in for free to see Elvis on that trip. New Orleans was great, and we had argued somewhere in Florida. We stopped and saw my late grandma Shelton in West Palm Beach and hung out with her a little bit. Went out to eat with her the next day. We had some kind of arguments, so we weren't speaking until we got outside of Philly, maybe 20 minutes from where his parents lived. And we'd been up so long, and I started drifting off. And suddenly I hear him waking me up, and I'm just about to go into this truck in front of me, and instead I heard this guardrail bounce off. We get to his house. I can't sleep there either, so after 2 hours trying, I got up and I drove the last 2.5 hours to Connecticut, and I was home. Don't drive tired, children, if you're out there. It almost got me killed several times. Don't do anything I do in these. And I'm cleaning these adventures up immensely. Like, they're way more crazier than I'm letting anybody even know. But maybe when I'm old and retired, I'll have another version of all these stories to tell. That was a Southern tour. We're talking for 30 minutes. Now, you know, somewhere Kosoff has books and pictures of the Southern tour. I tried to find a picture of us during the Southern tour. Here, I'm going to put this up here briefly. You guys see, this is us a few years later. Obviously, that's not the South. That's Santa Barbara. That's my dad's backyard. This is us maybe 3 years later. At this point, Koss has lost a lot of weight because he was really at his heaviest at the Southern tour, almost like a ball. I like him better when he's chubby because I think he's funnier and more like happy-go-lucky. When he gets skinny, he gets a little moody. And that's me. I was a little skinnier on the Southern tour too, and my hair was, I think, substantially longer on the Southern tour. Anyway, so that's us just a couple years later. Let me see. I know I have pictures somewhere. This one of Kossoff's notebook I was telling you about, and he's got hundreds of these, and they're stored. You know, I think some are stored at his brother's places. And he uses color, such a great artist, and this is his art someday, and his lyrics. And I was going to play one of his songs in here, but he didn't write any music, he just wrote lyrics. So, but I'm pretty good at making it up, and I did it yesterday, so I'm just going to take one of his songs, and it's not like this is how we wrote Pro Fry and Afternoon Morning. We just started playing and made stuff up, so I'm going to take a song he wrote April 7, 2007, and just put some music to it. I won't do it. Okay, here we go. Drowned by the beating of my heart, in the morning, in the window where you are. There you go, as the snow flies day before Easter. It's the shadow of your nose I recognize. Looking to the future, keeping with the times. Piled high and tipping over books and more. Behind and flowers lying on the ground. Mostly fairly hard and sudden freezing in the past. Where were you? Marquis gone dark. Artists have to recharge. Some time for the show to wander and for you to go onward. Okay, there we go. A song by Jeff Kosoff wrote in April 7th, 2007, and I just put it to music. So that's our latest collaboration. Here I am 14 years later in a couple months. So I guess that's all. No questions came through. I don't know if more than 2 people watch this. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'll do a show next week. I feel like I told, let me see, did I forget any major part of this story? Just the parts I forgot intentionally. Said Paul and I went again a year back and everything was dead. Beale Street was gone. But you would think even in 90 it would have been too late, but no, we caught the last of those old guys. We caught it. We saw it. That's all.